Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello learners, welcome back to the course on AI in Human Resource Management. We move almost to the last end of the particular course of AI in Human Resource Management, and typically for the last I had reserved a certain discussion on whether the coexistence of artificial intelligence and human resource management is it a boon or curse. Now this is a debatable topic, at least for now, but I would like to bring in different perspectives, understand it from different dimensions and see how we generally see it as a boon or a curse and how we can navigate if it is a curse. So we will look deeply into what exactly AI in HR with the understanding we have made from the last few modules. I'll try to make it a refreshing approach with respect to the boon or curse when you are looking into the coexistence of HR and AI. I am Dr. Abraham Cyril Issac. I'm an assistant professor at the School of Business, Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. Now, when you look into the coexistence of HR and AI, we have to see that it is not mere technology that has come in. It is more than that. With the influx of artificial intelligence and its technology, we see that there has been a lot of development with respect to the efficiency part of the organization, and specifically that is a welcome move when you're looking into the traditional mundane activities which was otherwise very highly restrictive, and there were not many of the creative practices that could have been there. But let's look into that from an angle where you see the coexistence of both. Now let's define the coexistence of both of this separately. The first one to understand the basic would be the integration of AI in HR, which certainly sparks a debate. Now let's look into the rapid advancement. We have seen across the different modules the rapid advancement of artificial intelligence in HR, which has sparked a global debate. So the question is, can AI coexist harmoniously with HR functions, or does it create challenges that outweigh its advantage? So this is the fundamental question which we would generally like to answer. And from this particular question emerges all the further discussions. So the question is central as companies try to integrate AI into HR workforce, as organizations tend to amalgamate the technology and the human resource management. So on one hand, AI promises efficiency and data-driven insights. On the other, it raises ethical concerns and fears of job displacement, making its role in HR a double-edged sword, if I can use the word. So basically you see that there is a certain need for balance, and the need for balance is all about balancing the AI's benefits and drawbacks. That is vital, that is critical. When you are looking into a well-integrated AI, it can optimize the HR processes, freeing HR professionals for strategic work that enhances workplace culture and employee satisfaction. But let's say if mismanaged, it risks creating resistance, reducing the human interaction, and potentially harming organizational morale. So the goal of this particular discussion today is to explore whether AI, artificial intelligence, can truly act as an HR boon, driving positive outcomes, or if it's just a curse that disrupts the organization's harmony. Now let's understand it from the angle of positivity, and that is artificial intelligence as a boon in HR management. Now when you talk about AI as a boon in HR management, please note we have to understand some critical differences artificial intelligence and the technology associated to that is bringing into the domain, a paradigm shift which we are talking about, which is automation of the routine task. Now, when you are looking into AI streamlines repetitive tasks like payroll, like scheduling, which we have categorically discussed in the previous module, even data entry, reducing the administrative burden on the HR teams. So, by automating these time-consuming processes, AI increases productivity, allowing the HR professionals to focus on strategic goals, be it employee development, be it employee retention, be it employee, a job enrichment, be it task interdependency, the increase of that, knowledge sharing, whatever the case may be. You see that AI certainly increases the efficiency and activity to a great extent. Let's take an example to understand this. AI powered platforms like what we have already seen, robotic process automation, RPA, specifically can handle benefits processing or recruitment scheduling. So, you look into any HR angle, any HR dimension which was otherwise very difficult to handle, let's say something like performance management, which even though with the possibility of the objectivity it can have, it was still difficult. So, those things specifically and in general the total HR, it has freed up a lot of time for the HR professionals as just discussed. So, this is not only increases the accuracy by minimizing the human error, but please note it also ensures faster processing times, benefiting both the HR and the employees. When we are looking into AI as a boon in HR management, we also have to understand it from an enhanced talent management angle. And how does it happen? AI certainly revolutionizes recruitment. We have seen that by screening resumes or by ranking candidates based on the skill alignment and potential cultural fit. So, this particularly, if you ask me, helps HR teams manage large applicant pools, and it effectively reduces the time to hire and lowering the recruitment cost. So, artificial intelligence typically helps reduce the unconscious bias, fostering a fairer selection process. And this can be understood by an example. Let me take an example here. Platforms like HireView, if you have gone through the previous lectures, you will see that we have discussed a lot on HireView or Pymetrics for that matter, use AI algorithms to assess candidates' soft skills and even, let's say, sometimes personality traits, helping organizations hire based on merit rather than, let's say, some superficial first impressions. That could be a significant factor. Another aspect would be employee engagement and retention. The moment you are talking about artificial intelligence, it revolutionizes recruitment by screening resumes and ranking candidates based on skill alignment and potential cultural fit. So, this helps the human resource teams manage large applicant pools effectively, reducing time to hire and lowering the recruitment cost. So, AI also helps reduce the possible unconscious bias which we were discussing before, fostering a fairer selection process. Again, let's take an example to understand it very clearly and in a crisp fashion. Platforms which we have seen with respect to. Now, the third aspect would be employee engagement and retention. When you are looking into employee engagement and retention, we see that artificial intelligence helps monitor and improve employee engagement through sentiment analysis and through predictive analytics. So, by assessing data from surveys, chat messages or feedback, artificial intelligence can identify the trends such as, let's say, disengagement or high turnover risk, prompting timely intervention. An example could be AI tools which can analyze, let's say, employee feedback and suggest engagement strategies, enabling human resource to improve retention through initiatives like, let's say, personalized development plans or recognition programs, all informed by data-driven insights. Another such significant factor would be augmentation of decision making. We talk about AI, It offers HR teams data-driven insights into workforce trends, enabling strategic decision making. So it certainly helps predict outcomes of HR interventions, supporting workforce planning, and to a certain extent it aligns HR efforts with broader business objectives. So if you look into the people analytics platforms like something which we have discussed previously, which would be Visya, that analyzes the turnover rates, skill gaps or employee performance, and empowering HR to proactively manage talent and succession planning. Another significant factor which acts as a boon in HR management would be the possibility that it brings to learning and development. Please note that we will bring out a different course altogether in the next semester with respect to learning and development in the Swayam NPTEL platform. But that's it, when you are looking into the integration here of AI in HR management, and specifically it acting as a boon. AI customizes learning pathways based on individual employee needs, enhancing the effectiveness of training programs. So certainly it can identify skill gaps and recommend the relevant training modules, which fosters a culture of continuous learning and supports employee growth. So AI-driven platforms like, let's say, what is being used in Coursera for business suggest courses to employees based on their learning styles, career goals, performance data, making learning more engaging and relevant, which we have already seen. Now let's take a diametrically opposite view to understand it better. Let's be a devil's advocate and see AI as a curse, challenges of integration in HR. The first one I can think of would be job displacement and role transformation, the imminent threat that is always being narrated in all the particular print and published media. When you are looking into AI's impact on HR roles, it can lead to job displacement as AI takes over tasks traditionally performed by humans. So employees, particularly those in let's say administrative roles, may feel their roles are at risk, causing anxiety and resistance to the AI adoption. Furthermore, if you think about in greater detail, some roles may evolve, requiring HR professionals to develop new technical skills to work alongside AI effectively. That could be something that come up very soon and nobody is talking about it. Let's take an example. HR administrators who previously handled data entry may need to upskill in areas like data analysis to work with AI tools, fundamentally changing the scope of their role itself. So this could be the paradigm shift which otherwise we are not looking into. The second possibility of AI manifesting as a curse would be ethical and the privacy concern. You look into AI's use of employee data for monitoring and typically analysis, it raises some of the ethical questions, specifically, let's say, questions regarding privacy. Now, continuous monitoring can create a surveillance culture, undermining the trust between employees and management. So, striking a balance between data insights and respecting employee privacy is vital. Let's take an example to understand this. When you're looking into sentiment analysis tools that monitor employee emails or messages for tone and mood, it can feel invasive if not transparently communicated. So clear guidelines on how this data will be used are vital to maintain the employee trust. Now let's understand another point, which is resistance and reluctance to change, which we have seen as a major barrier, but it can definitely be treated as a curse also, specific to as a challenge of integration in HR. Now, when you're looking into resistance and reluctance to change, we see that employees may resist AI, viewing it as a threat to their job security or as a tool that devalues their expertise. So this cultural resistance can hinder AI adoption and can create a divide between tech-savvy employees and those less comfortable with AI tools. Now, the problem with this is that when you are looking into those people who have spent years of their service in particular organization suddenly will feel threatened that this is beyond their scope, or they cannot actually understand this or learn the tools, or how it operates, or they are not at an age where they can actually imbibe the required nuances of the AI technology and tools. So that would be a threat that would actually elicit the resistance and reluctance to change. That would also actually trigger the possible repercussions or possible way to fight against AI. So let's take an example. Traditional HR staff may feel alienated also if AI implementation isn't accompanied by adequate training. So we are talking about a situation where even they are skeptical about the training that can come in, and it might be the case that they might not be able to actually learn something because they are not open to it. So this can lead to disconnect within HR departments, affecting the overall team dynamics and productivity. And we can also see this from a increased dependence on technology. When you are looking into over reliance on AI, it may reduce the role of the human judgment in HR, especially in areas which actually, if you ask me, requires empathy, such as conflict resolution and counseling for that matter. So AI lacks the emotional intelligence and context understanding crucial in these areas. So when you are looking into EI specifically and context understanding, specifically, these two are very critical in case of an HR department. So many a time what would happen is that this could be a problem where you are overly relying on technology, and things like situations which warrant the need for empathy would be just an oversight. So AI lacks the emotional intelligence and context understanding crucial in these areas. When you are using AI, let's understand this again with an example. When you are using AI to assess performance through quantitative metrics, it may overlook the individual circumstances affecting the employee performance. Many a time what happens is that, and this I think would warrant a certain discussion. Many a time what happens is that there are some situations which actually warrant a human touch. There might be situations where an individual is not able to perform. Maybe one, he is not trained well. Two, maybe he is having a bad day altogether. Three, maybe there are situations in which he might be going through a different phase in his life altogether. Or four, maybe there are situations which is certainly oppressive in the working conditions. So there are conditions, or there are situations or context. AI which lacks emotional intelligence may not be able to cope up with this particular thing. So this is where human touch is essential. This is where AI has a certain level of limitation, and many a time when we look into the over dependence of technology for the sake of objectivity, there are some times where the subjective measures are discarded, and those subjective measures actually make differences. Many a time in the research methodology course also I used to tell this as an example. You have to find out, let's say, about a strategic decision made by a company, an organization, to expand to another country. Let's say Indian organization is trying to expand to Sri Lanka. Now, whom should you actually ask about this? Let's say if you are conducting a research study with respect to this subject, looking into the strategic initiatives of organization ABC, then whom should you actually ask? Should you inquire all the 10,000 workers who are working? Should you actually survey all the 10,000 workers, or should you actually ask the board of governors or the chosen directors who are actually in charge or are responsible for that particular decision? The answer is simple. You have to ask only the board of directors in this particular case. So here you need to know whom to ask. Similarly, there is a question or a query related to working conditions, people are complaining that the working conditions are not good in an organization, whom should you ask? Whom should you survey? Should you ask the board of governors in that case, or should you actually go for a survey to most of the people, in fact the entire population if possible, otherwise a sample of that which are actually going through this, or the workers in general? So many a time the answer would be to ask the workers, because that is where the actual data lies. So this is the problem exactly with AI, or I would say rather in a general way, over dependence on technology. We lose the emotional touch, and as a human resource management professional, that would be the dead end for you. Human resource management professional, whatever be the problems the organization is facing, whatever the issues the organization is racing you into or maybe creating for you, but as a human resource management professional, you simply cannot lose the human touch, and that is sometimes seen as a curse for AI. Now let's look into some of the practical implementations as we are in the last end of our course. Let's look into some